Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now, this morning, U.S. President Barack Obama told Ethiopia's leaders that allowing more freedoms would strengthen the African nation, which had already lifted millions in the once famine-stricken country out of poverty. President Obama was speaking after talks with the Prime Minister during the first trip by a serving U.S. president to Ethiopia. And that's one of the fastest growing economies on the African continent, but which has often been criticized for its rights record.
We have discussed a range of issues related to cooperation on security and peace building in the region and on the pivotal role the U.S. can and does play. We have agreed to work closely on South Sudan to bring lasting peace to the conflict-ridden country. We have both agreed to work together in building peace in Somalia with the support of the U.S. and other partners in their fight against Al-Shabaab.
Third, our security cooperation is pushing back against violent extremism. Ethiopia faces serious threats, and its contribution to the African Union mission in Somalia have reduced areas under Al-Shabaab control. But as the Prime Minister noted, yesterday's bombing in Mogadishu reminds us that terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab offer nothing but death and destruction and have to be stopped. We've got more work to do.
U.S. President Barack Obama. Well, for more on the president's visit to Ethiopia, the Voice of America's Anita Powell joins us from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Anita, thank you very much. It's good to see you. Now, besides security and human rights, are there any other topics which the U.S. president could be discussing?
Sure. Well, Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn hit that one right off the bat. The economy. Ethiopia is one of the fastest growing economies in East Africa, in Africa for that matter, with double-digit growth for the last 12 years. But as he noted, the U.S. could be doing more to support Ethiopia's economy to bring more investment. And so that's going to be a major topic of discussion as well.
So what are the expectations from Ethiopia as regards this visit?
So I spoke to a top official in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he said this is a visit that will strengthen their existing ties. He says Ethiopia and the United States already agree on a number of issues, and this is going to just solidify them. But there are a few goodies as well. As the Prime Minister mentioned, they're signing an energy deal tonight, and you know, there is hope of increased investment from the U.S. In Ethiopia, and so that might be what we'll see getting out of it. And of course, increased cooperation in fighting terrorism in East Africa.
Well, finally, Anita, was there any reason given why this trip was limited to Kenya and Ethiopia?
Well, I think we all know why President Obama decided to go to Kenya. I mean,
yes.
It's his, you know, ancestral. Didn't want people to think he was playing favorites. As for Ethiopia, we unfortunately saw why Ethiopia matters so much yesterday when the Al-Shabaab militant group in Somalia bombed a hotel, killing at least 18 people. Terrorism is a real threat in this region. Ethiopia has always been a strong anti-terrorism ally to the United States, and I think they're needed more than ever now as these militant groups ramp up their attacks. And that does infringe, of course, on everybody's security around the world.
Well, Anita, thank you so much. We'll definitely be reaching out to you, hopefully tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Voice of America's Anita Powell reporting live from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Now, the U.S. President Barack Obama doesn't have plans to visit South Sudan during this edition of his Africa tour, but he definitely has the world's newest country on his mind. The president will be discussing a Plan B for South Sudan with African leaders today. According to a U.S. official, that discussion could include sanctions or other penalties if the country's warring parties do not forge a peace deal by mid-August. President Obama is on a two-country Africa tour, and the presidents of Uganda and Kenya, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, and the Chairwoman of the African Union, and the Foreign Minister of Sudan are all expected to attend the meeting in Addis Ababa. However, representatives from South Sudan were not invited. Now, as we heard the report from Anita Powell, the Somali militant Islamist group Al-Shabaab attacked a Mogadishu hotel on Sunday, and according to what she said, the death toll has now climbed from 13 to 18. Al-Shabaab, which said it was behind the attack, frequently stages bomb and gun attacks in the capital in its bid to topple Somalia's Western-backed government. The nation is trying to rebuild after 2 decades of conflict and chaos. Still to come on Network Africa. President Pierre Nkurunziza of Burundi wins the presidential elections, but the United States doubts the credibility of the outcome. Details in a moment.